Welcome, companions. What you're about to experience, well, it's been recovered, salvaged from the archives of the Shadow Cabinet. So think of this as an intellectual salvage mission. We're here to uncover a parable, really, a piece of forbidden knowledge that completely challenges what we've been taught about sacrifice and about what it means to live a life worth living. Let's dive right in. So our investigation kicks off with this pretty brutal truth. The dossier argues that these popular stories of martyrs, they aren't actually about celebrating strength at all. Nope, they're a comfort blanket, woven from someone else's suffering and used by the mob to justify their own refusal to confront the chaos of existence. It's just a convenient excuse for avoiding the difficult, messy, and frankly terrifying work of living an authentic life. And so, this dossier presents us with a choice. It's framed here as an invitation to walk a tightrope. Below us, the abyss, and ahead, two fundamentally different destinations, two economies of the soul that dictate how we navigate our entire existence. And this isn't just some abstract philosophy. This is a map for living. It's a choice between the safety of the grave and the wild, untamed sea of becoming. Now, what's really fascinating here is how starkly this lays out the conflict. On one path, you've got the vile economy. It's a life lived like a transaction. Suffer now in this very specific, pre-approved way, and you get to cash in a promissory note for a peaceful afterlife. But on the other path, the spirit of becoming. This one isn't about avoiding chaos. It's about screaming a joyous yes to its very existence, embracing even the pain as the forge of self-creation. It's the hard road to what this dossier calls the overman. Let's dig a little deeper into this vile economy. The dossier actually calls it pathetic. Why? Because it reframes sacrifice not as courage, but as a calculated purchase. The martyr's big theatrical death becomes a shield, hiding them from a far greater terror, the agony of actually creating a life. It's really just an insurance policy against the risk of living, a grand renunciation made by those who are terrified of the journey. And this is the result. A life lived under this economy just follows a rigid script. Real risk? It's an illusion. Because every single movement is dictated, every thought trapped by intellectual censorship. The soul, our source tells us, doesn't become this grand symphony. It's reduced to a fragmented whisper, just an echo of rules it never ever dared to question. Okay, so to really get our heads around this vil economy, we have to visit the valley where its customers live. Our dossier takes us to Naples, to the realm of the yellow face, to meet the people who have perfected this whole philosophy of avoidance. This is where we find what it calls the spirit of contempt made real. So the faccia gialla, the yellow face, is this golden bust of Saint Januarius. And a couple of times a year, the faithful gather, praying for his blood to miraculously liquefy. For them, it's a sign of protection, a blessing. But our dossier, it sees something else entirely. It sees a desperate plea to be saved from life's ups and downs, a prayer to keep everything level and safe. And the people who gather here, they are the perfect embodiment of the last man. See, the last man doesn't want adventure. He wants comfort. He doesn't seek the difficult sun of growth. He wants the shade of safety. So what does he do? He brews this slave morality, this poison that celebrates pity and meekness, all just to justify his deep desire to be saved from the effort of climbing his own mountains. Of course, every valley of comfort needs a guardian, right? And every sleeping herd needs a shepherd. In this parable, the high priest of the last man is a figure they call Salvio Pallido, the pale redeemer. He is the internal architect of this whole gilded cage. Now, Salvio, he doesn't offer fire and passion. He offers a new, kind of sterile trinity: safety, comfort, and stagnation. He's the guardian of the loophole, the one who promises the people they don't have to face that terrifying abyss. He has literally lowered the tightrope of life until it rests on the ground, and then he declares, see, there's no danger at all. And this is his whisper. This is the creed of the valley. Greatness? That's too expensive. It requires way too much risk. The cost is just too high. It's the voice of contempt for aspiration, but it's disguised as practical wisdom. Play it safe, he whispers, and the crowd just nods, relieved of the burden of becoming anything more. So what's the ultimate fate of this architect of comfort? Well, get this. His soul, so dedicated to preservation, so devoid of any passion or fire that it just reeks of safety, is rejected even by hell. And the verdict? Too small to burn. And that reveals the terrifying endgame of a life dedicated only to preservation. It just buries the living in a tomb of their own making. But hey, our dossier doesn't just abandon us in the valley. It pivots, hard, to the other path, presenting a totally different kind of miracle. Not the liquefaction of some saint's blood in a vial, but the liquefaction of a frozen human soul. And that, my friends, is a far more difficult and a far more noble endeavor. So for the awakened soul on this path, the goal just shifts dramatically. It's no longer about trying to secure a comfortable spot in some heaven beyond the earth. The goal is the journey itself, that vast, chaotic, untamed sea of becoming. It's all about what you can create in this life, not what you can purchase for the next one. So how do you achieve this thawing of the heart? The dossier calls it the crucified will. And yeah, it's a painful process. First, you have to break from that long, bitter winter of herd morality. Second, you voluntarily drive the nails into your own desire for comfort. Third, you affirm the suffering of creation as necessary and even good. And finally, you laugh at the martyr's corpse because you finally see it for the cowardly transaction it always was. And that brings us to a whole new definition of courage. It's not found in some grand public performance of a theatrical death, no way. True courage is the quiet, the agonizing, the intensely personal struggle of giving birth to yourself. It is the birth pang of the powerful creator, the one who actually dares to make something new right in the face of chaos. Now, the path is difficult, yes, but the Shadow Cabinet dossier doesn't just present the problem, it gives us the blueprints, the tools required to leave that valley of comfort behind and actually begin the climb toward the jagged peaks of your potential. And here it is, the master tool, amor fati, to love one's fate. Now, this is not passive resignation. This is a fierce, triumphant acceptance of everything life is, the joy, the pain, the victory, the failure. It is looking at your own life, with all its scars and declaring, yes, I will it to be so again. It's the ultimate antidote to resentment and that whole spirit of contempt. This slide just visualizes the journey perfectly, doesn't it? It is a conscious act of departure. You have to leave the warmth and safety of the valley, the world of the last man and his pale redeemer. And then you must begin the difficult ascent toward the cold, sharp but magnificent peaks of what you could become. And that brings us to the conclusion of this parable. The journey outward, toward those peaks, has to begin with a journey inward. It all starts with a reckoning in the mirror, a real confrontation with yourself and the choices that you've made. You see, the mirror that Salvio Palito offers just reflects a stagnant ceiling, trapping you. But the true mirror, it reveals a choice. It shows you not only the ceiling you've accepted, but the terrifying, liberating abyss of potential right below it. And just acknowledging that the choice exists, that the abyss is real, that is the first crucial step. And this is the ideal this path leads toward. Not a saint to be worshipped, but the overman. This is the individual who finally stops looking for a savior. They don't want to be saved from life. Instead, they master the art of dying to their old, comfortable, cowardly selves again and again so that they might be reborn stronger and finally, truly live. And that, companion, is where this salvage dossier leaves us, with a question aimed directly at you. The mirror is right in front of you now. It shows two kinds of abyss. The abyss of the stagnant ceiling, a slow, comfortable death. Or the abyss of the open sea, a life of dangerous, chaotic, magnificent becoming. The choice, as always, is yours.